guys, welcome back. I'm Cassandra, and you're here to watch all about narcissistic abuse and tips to heal, and all about my journey. Okay, so I'm gonna give you some tips that worked for me throughout the years. To give you some background, I actually came out of an 18-year relationship that was narcissistically abusive, and I was married to that person for 13 years. So I was also in church, so I've gone through a lot and have experienced a lot with dealing with that. And so I try to share a lot of my tips about the healing journey on our website, www.abusemenot.com. So the first thing I would like to discuss is that narcissism is still one of the top trending searches on Google. So I guess a lot of people are still dealing with this, and so that's why I'm adding my voice to the crowd, I guess, or adding my voice, as they say, because so many people need to hear about this. I was on Facebook, and I'm part of a lot of different groups that deal with narcissism or healing, the healing journey, overcoming trauma, things of that nature. And in one of those groups, I responded to a comment if there were anyone who had dealt with ministers and church abuse and things of that nature. And this person was married to a minister, same story as mine, and they were asking questions. And so I saw it and I responded, and she was like, because narcissism isn't in the Bible. And I'm like, but it is. I found it in the Amplified version. I don't know if it's anywhere else, but in 2 Timothy chapter 3, the word narcissistic is there. It's in brackets to describe what it means to be a lover of self, but it's there, and a lot of people don't know that. So I shared where she could find that and, help her out, but it's in there. It's like ragu, okay? All right. So the first tip to think about, or that helped me on my journey, is that foraging through information. You do want to do as much research as you can, because when I first started learning about it, and this was early 2000s, I want to say around 2004 is when I started thinking about it or discovered it and came across it. So it wasn't a lot of information out there, but today we have so much. There's a wealth of it. You can find out what it is. There's a few channels that a few therapists are running to help people. So find them, Google the term. It's still, again, one of the top search terms. So find out what it is, because anyone could deal with this. When I first heard about the term, I was only thinking in terms of the marriage, and who I was dealing with on a personal level, but I didn't realize that it could be anybody, a coworker, schoolmates, family, friends, church members, So what happened was, this leads me to my second tip, was after discovering narcissism, you begin to wake up and realize that there's a lot of people around you with this trait, and that's the truth. We all need a healthy version of self-love. You know what I mean? We have to love ourselves in some form or manner, because you can't love your neighbor as yourself if you have no love for you. And then I realized that if I'd had more self-love for myself, then I wouldn't have been in this situation to begin with. We accept some things that we really don't deserve, because at that time we really thought we deserved that, And one of the things that helped me see that was realizing the dysfunction in my own family, And I realized that being a giving person, sometimes you allow things to slide. And your family, you feel like that unconditional love, and so you keep extending the rope, regardless of what they do. You keep, get up, you can try again, and you keep extending and being there and supporting, and not realizing that they are actually using you. And so now you got other takers in the world who see you, and now they are just going to use you too, So establishing some boundaries leads me to our next point. Okay. And we hear a lot about accountability and responsibility. And this is really where those words apply to us. We have to be accountable for the boundaries we did not have at that time, and then be accountable for the boundaries that we establish going forward. Like, do we want to be in a relationship like that? No. So then we have to establish the boundaries. And if we don't hold to our boundaries, we're the ones accountable for that. We are. And so it's important to know that and get those boundaries. Find out what your boundaries are, because everyone's boundaries aren't the same. It is sad that we believe that every one of us should be exactly alike, like robots, and this is what narcissism is. They are walking around in my opinion, this is what I call them myself, a robot. And I call it a robot because how is it possible that you all act the same? All act the same. Okay? And so we really have to dig deep within ourselves to just get an understanding, be willing to heal yourself. Like, you don't want to stay there. Like, it's not going to change, unfortunately. And the Bible says at the end of that scripture that I mentioned, 2 Timothy 3, my favorite version says to run. But in the Amplified version, where it says the word narcissistic, it says to keep away from. So you can't have or establish any type of logical, healthy relationship with this type of person. And you'll see that as you come across the information. These things really do work. They really do help you. With the boundaries thing, though, one thing that bothered me in the beginning was not being okay for someone not liking my boundary. It was a case where someone wanted to be friends and I just wasn't open to any type of new friendships, and they wanted to push the issue. And that bothered me even more because it's my choice. You know what I mean? I have my own life and I don't even know you, first of all. And then I don't even know what you're about. And the fact that you want to push the issue, that's a little suspect too, now that I think about it. But at that time, it bothered me because I felt bad that I didn't want to open the door for friendships. But I was like, nope, I'm doing it anyway. And so, at first it may not feel right to go ahead and establish boundaries and to enforce them. But you have to for your own mental sanity. I wanted to be peaceful. I wanted to have peace in my life. I wanted to have the life I felt I kind of deserved, which was better than what I was in. I wasn't looking for no unrealistic expectations. I was just trying to not be in a narcissistic, abusive relationship, okay? And being by yourself, guys, is way better than being abused, So I enjoy it. I guess the next tip would be find some books to read. There's several out there. One I recommend all the time is You Are a Badass, which is found on YouTube, okay? It is a really good book. And I talk about the thing about what makes you happy, and so I ended up going back to school. But what I wanted to share was I chose to do that because I need to set my life up to be happy. You get what I'm saying? Career-wise, mentally wise, health-wise, So I determined that I wanted these, and you really have to want that. So many times people are forcing the issue about relationships and not really forcing the peace you get from being by yourself. It's okay. I have this post on our blog at abusemenot.com, and it talks about walking alone. Most of our institutions, school, religion, work, they require for you to participate, produce, be in full participation. But then there are times where you need alone time, when you need to discover yourself, you need to find yourself, especially after coming out of all of this trauma. Yeah, it's a lot, It is a lot. And as I'm thinking about that, one thing that comes up was the people around you. I know not everyone is going to understand narcissistic abuse. They don't. If they've never gone through it, they really don't want to even hear about it or even talk about it. I realize that for my personal life. I'm not sure how it goes for everyone else, but personally, a lot of people in my personal life are not interested. Unless they go through it, unless they have a friend, then when their sister or daughter is in it, then they want to reach out, and hear about it. But if it doesn't affect them, it doesn't affect them, and so they're not interested. And so that's why I set up the group, to just have a place to talk about it, because I realize that as I share my story, a lot of people come out and say, hey, I've gone through that, and I didn't realize what it was. And like I mentioned, the lady in the church didn't even realize that it was in the Bible until I brought it to light. And I said, yeah, it tripped me out when the first time I read it too, almost 10, 15 years ago, And so you do have to deal with that. The flying monkeys. If you haven't come across that term, the flying monkeys are people who are used by the narcissist knowingly or unknowingly to further abuse the victim or to abuse the person they're trying to abuse. I don't like that word so much, but it is the case. They're trying to victimize you. The person they're trying to victimize is the right term. And so, excuse me. And so flying monkeys, when you have a lot of them, because we were so in church, you're part of this community, and so there was a large community, and so I didn't realize that I was being villainized behind my back. Didn't even know it. And the one thing I thought after I learned about it was, no one came to ask me any questions. No one said anything to me about it. I found out about it on a whim in the aftermath. And there's several things that people don't know that I do know about, and I don't bring it up. What I've decided to do is just distance. Keep your distance. You know what I mean? And it's a personal decision for everyone, because you might be able to handle more than me, but what I can handle was keeping my distance at that time. And so I was willing to do that to get free. And so those are some of the tips that really, really, really helped me along my journey. And I'm going to go back to the part where my point was, after reading that book and finding out what made me happy, I was able to develop a career plan where I could work and enjoy it, because it's hard when you're a single mom now and you're coming out of dealing with narcissistic abuse, something that men and women both experience. And now you're a single mother to 4 children. You got to work, you got to pay bills, you got to take care of stuff, and you're in mental distress because of this. And so as I was going through it, my thought was, how do we do this so that you could take care of yourself, while you're healing? And this is for anyone. And so that's why I share tips on how to develop products, how to come up with ideas. I went back to school for communications, and so I write now. I do videography for the news. I really enjoy that, and I want to share some stories about some press conferences I did, guys. And that's one of the things that I worked on for healing, okay? Because the end goal is healing. And that's why I brought up that being happy, because after I learned what makes you happy, then I found this path. You know what I mean? Even though I had started Battle Group Development Project before, and I knew I wanted to instigate change to artistic ventures, I didn't understand it until I actually started walking in it myself. I was just trying to grow, and I realized that the fact that people don't want to hear it, and they feel like putting the blame on the person, and we're looking at it as, I shouldn't be blamed for being abused, instead of, I can take accountability for not setting those boundaries. I can be responsible for, allowing that to continue. I can be responsible for that, So those are some of my tips. I hope they help you. Feel free to reach out to me. You can always reach me at www.abusemenot.com, or leave a comment below, and I'm there to help you if you need help to overcome. But if you need more help on social media or got suggestions for videos, feel free to post those as well. All right, guys. Until next time, talk to you later. Bye.